A desperate woman bangs on his door at midnight fleeing a forced marriage. To save her, a lonely rancher makes a shocking offer. Marry him for real. It starts as a legal shield against a dangerous predator, but as threats escalate and bullets fly, their fake vows ignite a true passion. Can two strangers survive the storm long enough to find love? Please subscribe to my channel True Stories from the Old West. Watch till the end to see what happens next. The storm lashed the plain with fury when Riff Mercer heard urgent knocks at his door. It was past midnight in that lost corner of the territory. No one called at such hours without a weighty reason. He set his steaming cup of coffee on the table. He rose without haste but with an alert heart. He lived alone in that wide wooden house surrounded by generous fields and livestock but empty of companionship. At 32, he was known as the loneliest man in the entire county. When he opened the door, the wind nearly tore it from his hands. Under the downpour, a female figure held tightly to the reins of a horse that could barely stand. Her face wet, exhausted, and overflowing with fear sought Riff's eyes. "Please, I need help," she pleaded with an accent that left no doubt about her origin. "My horse is injured and I am being pursued." Riff didn't think twice. "Get in quickly," he ordered, holding the door against the wind. The woman crossed the threshold and he helped her lead the animal to the adjacent stable. She trembled not only from the cold but from something deeper, as if the storm were the least terrifying part of her night. "I am Naya," she said with a broken voice while Riff examined the horse's leg. "I have been fleeing from the eastern town. Some merchants wanted to force me to marry their leader. I refused. They tried to take me by force. I barely escaped. And now they are looking for you," he completed, instantly understanding the gravity of the situation. The animal's wound was clear. It would not heal in less than a week. "You cannot continue tomorrow," he stated bluntly. Naya clenched her fists. She was about 26, and despite her evident fear, her dark eyes reflected fire. "I have nowhere to go. My people separated from me years ago as I sought another path. Now I have no tribe, no home, and no family." Riff observed her with respect. He recognized that loneliness. It was the same weight that had pressed on his own bones for years. "You can stay tonight," he said firmly. "Tomorrow we will see what to do." He offered her dry clothes, a hot meal, and the guest room. While she rested, he stayed in the shadows by the window, watching the rain cease. He knew well that those seeking her would not give up easily. If they truly wanted to find her, they would come to town. And sooner or later, someone would speak of Riff Mercer's ranch. The next morning, the sun shone as if the storm had never passed. Riff was preparing coffee when he heard soft footsteps descending the stairs. Naya appeared with her hair tied back, dressed in simple but clean clothes. "Thank you for your hospitality," she said with dignity, standing in the middle of the living room. "I will leave as soon as my horse can support itself." Riff cleared his throat before responding. "I was thinking last night, if those men are looking for you, they will ask in town. This ranch is the most well-known in the area. They will probably come here." Naya's face paled. "Then I must leave today. I do not want to cause you trouble." "Wait." He stopped her with a gesture. "I have an idea. It is not very common, but it could work." She looked at him with suspicion and also with a certain curiosity. "If I present you as my wife, you will be protected by the law of this territory. No one can touch you without facing consequences. Here, no man can claim what already belongs to another." Legally speaking, Naya's expression shifted from astonishment to skepticism. "Are you proposing that we pretend to be married?" "Not exactly," Riff replied with a grave voice. "A fake marriage would be easy to dismantle and would get us into worse trouble. But if the marriage is real, no one can question it." "If we marry for real," Riff said calmly, "it will be legal, legitimate, and undeniable." Naya took a step back, surprised. "Are you crazy?" she responded without raising her voice. "Marrying a stranger just to protect her." Riff shrugged and gestured to the space around them. "Look closely, Naya. I have this big house, these open lands enough. Livestock, and yet I am alone. I have no wife, no family. I live like a hermit surrounded by abundance. He paused for a second before continuing. You, on the other hand, need a home, security, a place where those men cannot reach you. Naya walked slowly to the window. From there, the desert stretched endlessly, bathed in the morning light. Her mind worked quickly, weighing every possibility. It is madness, she murmured. Perhaps, Riff admitted. But it is a madness that could save your life and perhaps give me something more than this. Loneliness. She turned to look at him. For a long moment neither spoke. In Riff's eyes, she saw no desire or hidden intentions, only frankness and something else. A loneliness very similar to her own. If we do this, Naya said finally, it would be a practical agreement. You have the house, but no wife. I need a home, but I do not have one. It is fair. Riff nodded slowly. Fair, but with conditions. Naya lifted her chin with dignity. I will cook, care for the house, and help on the ranch. I will not be a burden. I will earn my place here. I expected nothing less, he replied with a slight smile. And when do you propose we do it? She asked, still assimilating the magnitude of what they were discussing. The judge comes to town every Friday, Riff answered. We have 3 days to think about it. If you change your mind, I will understand. But if we proceed, it will be a real marriage before the law without lies, without deception. Naya extended her hand. 3 days to decide. Riff took it, feeling the firmness of her grip. At that moment, either of them could imagine that this simple agreement between two solitary souls would end up changing their lives forever. As the sun rose over the desert, both began to understand that sometimes the most unexpected solutions are born in the most desperate moments, and that destiny has strange ways of uniting those who need each other most even before they know it themselves. The decision was made, but the true journey was just beginning. The 3 days passed like a breath laden with tension. Riff and Naya moved through the house like strangers learning to share the same space. She prepared tortillas and stews that filled the air with warm aromas while he spent hours fixing fences and tending to the livestock. At night, they sat before the fire. They spoke little but observed each other much. Riff noticed the way Naya moved her hands when telling stories of her Apache childhood. Naya, for her part, saw how he treated the animals with patience and respect without a hint of violence. On Thursday night, a day before the judge's arrival, Riff found her on the porch looking at the stars. Have you made a decision? He asked, maintaining a respectful distance. Naya did not answer immediately. I have been thinking about something you said, she said finally. You spoke of having a house but not a wife. I have skills, strength, determination, but I have no home. I think this arrangement makes sense. Something moved in Riff's chest. Relief, hope. He was not sure. Then tomorrow we will go to town, he said firmly. But there is something else. Naya finally looked at him. Those merchants. The leader is named Creed Boss. He is a powerful man with connections. He will not give up easily. I know. Riff replied, taking a step toward her. That is why this marriage must be real with papers and witnesses. Riff said firmly, his gaze fixed on her. Once we are legally married, not even Creed Boss can touch you without facing the law. And if he tries anyway? Naya asked with a genuine tremble in her voice. Then we will face him together. He replied without hesitation. You are no longer alone, Naya. Those words struck deep. It had been years since anyone had said such a thing to her, and much less meant it seriously. Friday dawned clear and with a serene glow. Riff prepared the carriage early and both dressed in their best clothes. Naya chose a sky-blue dress, simple but graceful. He had found it in an old trunk that belonged to his mother. And when he showed it to her, it fit as if made to measure. The trip to town took a couple of hours. During the journey, they spoke little but of essentials. How will we tell our story? She asked. We will say that you passed by the ranch looking for temporary work. He suggested. That we became friends and over time decided to marry. And if they ask why so quickly? Then we will tell half the truth. That, in these lands, when one finds the right person, there is no sense in waiting. Upon arriving in town, Riff's stomach churned. Outside the general store, 3 unknown men were asking questions. And one of them was showing what seemed to be a portrait, or a written description. Naya noticed it too and paled. "It is them," she whispered, pressing her lips together. Riff took her hand firmly. "Keep calm. In less than an hour, you will be my wife before the law. No one can touch you." Without wasting time, they went straight to the judge's office. Judge Eli Thorne, an older man with a calm voice, had known Riff for years. "Riff boy, what brings you here so early?" he asked with curiosity. "I have come to get married, Judge," Riff replied, not letting go of Nia's hand. The judge raised his eyebrows, truly surprised. "Get married? But you never mentioned having a girlfriend." "Things happen fast," Riff said without excuses. "This is Nia. We met a few months ago and decided we didn't want to wait any longer." The judge looked at the young woman with attention and kindness. "Miss, are you here of your own free will? No one is forcing you." Nia lifted her chin proudly. "I am here by my own decision. Riff is a good man." "Well, well." The judge smiled. "Although unusual, there is no reason to deny it, but I need 2 witnesses." Riff looked out the window and saw Will Maddox and his husband Bram Cutter leaving the bakery. Decent and trustworthy people. Willa and Bram could serve as witnesses. An excellent choice. The judge agreed. 15 minutes later, both entered the office, surprised but happy to participate. Willa even had tears in her eyes seeing the scene. Judge Eli Thorne opened his book and began the ceremony with solemnity. "Riff Mercer, do you accept Nia as your lawful wife to care for and respect her all the days of your life?" Riff looked into her eyes, and in that instant, although this began as an agreement, he felt the weight of the promise. "Yes, I accept." "Nia, do you accept Riff as your lawful husband to support him and stand by his side all the days of your life?" She swallowed hard. This man had received her without knowing her, offered her refuge without asking for anything in return. "Yes, I accept," she said with a clear voice. "Then by the power vested in me by this territory," the judge proclaimed, "I declare you husband and wife. Riff, you may kiss your bride." There was a brief pause. They had not discussed that moment. However, he leaned gently and kissed her forehead with respect. Nia closed her eyes. She felt a warmth she did not expect. Will applauded with emotion and Bram gave Riff a slap on the back. The judge indicated where to sign. They did. It was official. They were married before the law. Upon leaving, Riff kept the certificate carefully in his pocket. But as soon as they stepped onto the street, one of Creed Boss's men approached. "Excuse me, sir," he said with a forced tone. "Have you seen an Apache woman with long hair traveling alone?" Riff put his arm around Nia calmly. "I have not seen any woman traveling alone. This is my wife, Nia Mercer. We just got married." The man observed her with distrust, but Nia did not shrink or look away. She stood firm, pressed against Riff's side as if her body also said, "Yes, I belong here." "Congratulations," the stranger muttered, though his voice sounded neither honest nor polite. He turned and walked away without another word. But Riff knew that this was not the end, not by a long shot. "We have to return to the ranch," he whispered to Nia as they walked toward the carriage. During the return journey, they barely spoke. The silence between them was not uncomfortable, but dense. The weight of what they had just done settled in their chests like sand after a storm. There was no turning back. Now they were spouses before the law. Upon arriving at the ranch just as the sun hid behind the hills, Nia got off the carriage. She stopped for a moment, contemplating the house that was now legally hers as well. "Mrs. Mercer," Riff said with a half-smile in his hat. In his hands, "Mr. Mercer," she replied softly, returning the smile, although with a lump in her throat that was not entirely fear. They entered together, unaware that among the shadows of the slope, someone was watching them. Creed Boss had not disappeared. He was only waiting. The first week as husband and wife passed with a strange harmony. They did not sleep in the same room. He stayed in his sheet in the guest room. They did not talk much, but they worked together as if they had been sharing land for years. Naya proved to be surprisingly skilled. She knew every plant in the desert, which ones healed and which ones poisoned. She taught Riff how to follow almost invisible tracks, how to read the ground, how to listen to the animals, things her people had taught her since childhood. He in turn showed her how to move cattle without hurting them, how to fix fences and repair rusty tools. There was a way of collaborating between them that did not require many words. One afternoon, while they were repairing a section of the north fence, Riff squinted, noticing something on the horizon. "Dust is rising on the road," he said in a low voice. "Alert." Naya dropped the hammer in her hand. Her body reacted before her mind. Something in her instinct told her danger. "Go to the house," Riff ordered without looking at her. "Get the marriage certificate. It is in the top drawer of the desk." She did not argue, she ran. Riff remained there with his feet firm on the earth and his gaze fixed on the approaching dust. 3 riders were coming at full speed. When they were close enough, he recognized the one in front. Creed Boss himself. He wore a dark suit, a wide-brimmed hat, and an expression on his face that left no room for doubt. Arrogance and threat in equal parts. Behind him, 2 men with hard faces and absent manners like unleashed dogs. "Riff Mercer?" Boss asked, stopping his horse right in front of him. "The same," Riff replied without moving an inch. "What do you need?" Creed dismounted slowly. His eyes scanned the ranch like someone evaluating a property before taking it. "Nice place," he commented with a crooked smile. "I heard you recently got married. My congratulations." "Thanks." Riff crossed his arms. "But I doubt you came all this way just to congratulate me." "You are right," Creed said, and his smile became sharper. "I am looking for a woman. She belongs to me, an Apache named Naya. She stole something very valuable from me, her promise of marriage." Riff looked at him without blinking. "Here no one belongs to anyone. And if you are speaking of Naya Mercer, she is my legal wife. I have documents to prove it." Creed Boss's eyes narrowed. He was no longer smiling. "Your wife? How convenient," Creed Boss said with venom in his voice. "A woman fleeing from me appears at your ranch and days later becomes your wife." At that instant, Naya came out of the house with the certificate in her hand. The wind moved the edges of the paper, but she held it tightly. Creed saw her, and his face hardened like stone. "What have you done, Naya?" he asked with a sugary voice that did not hide the threat. "I have taken the reins of my life," she replied, advancing without fear until she stood beside Riff. "I never gave you my word of marriage. You tried to force me and I escaped. Now I'm the legal wife of Riff." Creed took a step forward charged with fury, but Riff immediately placed himself in between. "One more step," he warned, "and you will be invading my property with hostile intentions, and that has legal consequences." Creed stopped, but his smile did not disappear. "Very clever, Cowboy. But listen well, I have influence, partners, power. I can make life in this county a hell for both of you." "Threats do not scare me," Riff replied. "And your connections are not above the law." Creed fixed his gaze on the certificate Naya held. His jaw tensed with contained rage. "This does not end here," he muttered. "You have humiliated me in front of everyone. And you, Mercer, stuck your nose where it didn't belong." "My wife is my business," Riff said without blinking. "And now I ask you to leave my property." Creed mounted again with slow, deliberate movements as if each gesture carried a warning. He did not take his eyes off Naya for a second. "Enjoy your marriage while you can," he murmured before riding away with his men. When they disappeared on the horizon, Naya let out a trembling sigh. "This is going to get worse," she said bluntly. "I know," Riff agreed, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "But you are not alone. We will face it together." That night Riff did not sleep a wink. He sat on the porch with his rifle beside him, his gaze fixed on the dark desert. Around midnight he heard soft footsteps. Naya appeared wrapped in a shawl. "You cannot stay awake all night," she said, sitting next to him. "Someone has to keep watch," he replied. "Then let us keep watch together." She took the rifle without asking permission. "I can detect movement in the darkness," she explained. "I can hear things you cannot." Riff looked at her with a mixture of surprise and respect. "Where did you learn all that?" "From my people. Women are not weak, nor do they stay waiting," she said naturally. "We learn to survive, to fight, to protect what we love." "And what do you love now?" Riff asked. Naya looked toward the house behind them. "This place is more than a refuge. It is the first place where I have felt peace in many years." "I am glad to hear that." Riff smiled. "Because now it is your home." They spent 2 more hours in silence. They said nothing, but something had changed. Riff no longer saw Naya as a stranger. She was strong, intelligent, and bringing new life to his home. At dawn Naya spoke. "There is something you must know. Creed did not want to marry me just out of pride. My Apache family has rights to lands rich in water, lands he desires for his businesses. If he married me, he could claim them." Riff understood immediately. "So, all this was not about you. It was about power and resources." "Exactly." Naya nodded. "But now that I am married to you, those rights are protected." He lost more than a fiancé. He lost a valuable business, and that will make him dangerous. "He will not give up," Riff said firmly. "He won't do something soon." Riff stood up. His expression became more resolute than ever. "Then we will prepare. If he wants war, he will have it. But he will not face a single person. This time we are 2 and we have more to lose than he does." Naya also stood up. For the first time she took Riff's hand without hesitation. "Thank you for not regretting helping me." "I will never regret it," he replied, squeezing her hand sincerely. "You are the best decision I have made." At that moment both felt that something had broken and something new had begun. What started as just an agreement was now a real union, an alliance of soul and land. Meanwhile, in town, Creed Boss was not